Welcome to the world of the Crusades, a series of epic wars that shaped the Middle Ages, involving kings, knights, and bloody battles for the Holy Land. But were the Crusades just religious conflicts? Today we'll uncover the political, economic, and spiritual motivations behind these confrontations that changed the course of history. Get ready, the journey is just beginning. The Crusades were military expeditions organized by Western Christianity between the 11th and 13th centuries, primarily aimed at retaking Jerusalem and other holy sites that were under Muslim control. But over 2 centuries, these wars involved much more than just religious issues. By the end of the 11th century, Europe was undergoing major transformations. Population growth, scarcity of fertile lands, and struggles for control of trade routes created a politically unstable scenario. The Catholic Church, led by Pope Urban II, also wanted to consolidate its power, and the idea of a holy war offered the perfect opportunity. It was in this context that, in 1095, Pope Urban II gave an impassioned speech at the Council of Clermont, calling on the Crusaders in the Christian knights to march east and free Jerusalem from Muslim control. The promise was tempting. Those who participated would have their sins forgiven and their place in heaven guaranteed. Although the Crusades were presented as a religious war, there was much more at stake. Faith was indeed a strong motivator for many participants, but political, economic, and social reasons also drove kings, nobles, and even peasants to head to the Middle East. For the European nobility, the Crusades were an opportunity to expand their territories. Many feudal lords saw the chance to conquer land in the East, creating new Christian kingdoms. Additionally, there was great internal pressure. Europe was overpopulated, and the redistribution of land through external conquests seemed like a viable solution to calm social tensions. Another group with a strong interest in the Crusades were merchants, especially those from Italian cities like Venice and Genoa. They were looking to control the lucrative trade routes that connected Europe to the East, bringing valuable goods like spices, silk, and other treasures. For them, the Crusades meant profit and commercial expansion. On the other hand, the Byzantine Empire, located in the East, had its own interests. Constantly threatened by Turkish invasions, Byzantine Emperor Alexios I asked the Pope for help, triggering the call for the First Crusade. His goal was to protect Constantinople and recover lost territories. Now, let's dive into the events that marked the major Crusades. Over almost 2 centuries, there were 9 great Crusades, but some were more significant than others. The First Crusade was undoubtedly the most successful. After years of marching, the Christian armies reached Jerusalem in 1099 and took the city. For the Europeans, this victory was considered a miracle. However, the conquest was brutal, resulting in the massacre of much of the Muslim and Jewish population. After the victory, the Crusaders established several kingdoms in the Middle East, like the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the County of Edessa, and the Principality of Antioch. These states depended on continuous support from Europe and were in constant conflict with the Muslims in the region. But the stability of these new kingdoms was fragile. When the County of Edessa fell to the Muslims in 1144, the Pope called for the Second Crusade. This campaign, led by European kings like Louis VII of France and Conrad III of Germany, was a failure. They were defeated before even reaching Jerusalem, and the Crusaders' morale plummeted. The Third Crusade is perhaps the most famous. It was a response to the recapture of Jerusalem by the Muslim leader Saladin in 1187. The crusade was led by iconic figures like Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip II of France, and Emperor Frederick Barbarossa. Although they didn't manage to retake Jerusalem, the Crusaders secured an agreement that allowed Christian pilgrims access to the city without it being under European control. The Crusades may have failed in their religious objectives, but their impact was profound and long-lasting. They opened new trade routes between Europe and the East, bringing exotic goods like spices, silk, and sugar to European markets. These routes helped strengthen the economic growth of cities like Venice and Genoa. Beyond material goods, the Crusades also promoted cultural and scientific exchange. Europeans were exposed to the advanced knowledge of the Arabs in areas like mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Many of the ideas and inventions that flourished during the Renaissance came to Europe through this contact. The Crusades also reinforced the power of the Catholic Church, which began to exert even greater influence over the lives of Europeans. Politically, they helped centralize power in the hands of European kings, contributing to the rise of the great national monarchies in the following centuries. Many of the stories we hear about the Crusades are surrounded by myths. One of the biggest misconceptions is the idea that all participants were driven exclusively by faith. In reality, many European nobles joined the Crusades in search of wealth, land, and prestige. Another popular myth is the figure of the Knights Templar. They were much more than simple warriors. Besides defending pilgrims and fighting in the Crusades, they became one of the richest and most influential orders of the time, accumulating power through a primitive banking system. And finally, the portrayal of the Crusades in popular culture is not always accurate. Films and books tend to romanticize knights and villainize Muslims when, in reality, both sides committed atrocities. The Crusades were complex wars, with multifaceted motivations and unpredictable consequences. Today, the legacy of the Crusades can still be felt. They shaped relations between the West and the East and left deep scars on the interactions between Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Although these events occurred centuries ago, their consequences continue to reverberate to this day. If you enjoyed exploring this fascinating part of history and want to keep discovering more about the past, subscribe to the channel now. Here, we tell the most epic stories of humanity. Leave a like, comment on what surprised you the most about the Crusades, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next videos. See you on our next journey through history.